Hi, everybody. Do you have any friends named Alex, Alexander, Alexandra, Allie, Al? Anybody like that you know? Even if you don't know them, I would like to tell you a story about how they got their names. It's a very exciting story and a fun story, and I think that you'll like it a lot. The story begins a long, long time ago. In the first Beis HaMikdash, there were two. In the first Beis HaMikdash, the Jews had a great time. They would come there to daven to Hashem. They would come to give korbanos. They would come to learn Torah. Overall, the Jews really, really loved it. They had a great time. They grew. They became better people. They were better to everybody else. And they also served Hashem in the right way. Unfortunately, after a long time, the Jews stopped keeping the Torah. They forgot about Shabbos. They forgot about learning Torah. They forgot about davening. And the worst thing, they weren't nice to each other. They spoke bad about each other. They weren't friendly to each other. They weren't nice. They didn't do chesed for each other. It was very sad. And Hashem had to punish them. Hashem sent a very, very bad man from a far away place called Bavel. It was very far from Eretz Yisrael. And this man's name, this evil man, his name was Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar came from a far, far away place. And he came for one reason and one reason only. He came to hurt the Jews. It was very sad. He came from far away from Bavel. He went into Eretz Yisrael. He started beating the Jews. He hit the Jews. He hurt them a lot. But then he did the worst thing. He went into Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, our special city. Our city that we love so much, that had the Beis HaMikdash, where the Jews were always happy and they were always serving Hashem. And he went into the Beis HaMikdash. And he wasn't allowed to go in. Only the Kohanim were allowed to go in. And he went into the Beis HaMikdash. And it was very, very sad. He broke down the walls, him and his army, and they lit the Beis HaMikdash on fire, and they destroyed the whole Beis HaMikdash. It was a very, very sad time. And he took all the Jews, and he tied up their hands, and he tied up their feet, and he made them walk with him all the way back to Bavel. And it was very, very, very sad. It was one of the saddest times that we ever had. And the Jews came to this strange place called Bavel, and they missed Yerushalayim so much they would cry every day for Yerushalayim. They'd say, if we ever forget Yerushalayim, Hashem, take away our right arm. Pick up your right arm. Imagine without your right arm, what are you going to do without your arm? And that's how much they love Yerushalayim. But the Jews started getting used to it. And again, they started leaving the ways of the Torah. And Hashem had to send another bad man to wake them up, to say, you have to keep the Torah. And we all know which bad man this was. Do you remember the Purim story? Do you remember Haman the Rasha and Mordechai and Esther, our tzaddikim? Well, Mordechai and Esther were in a place called Shushan, and Haman came up and he said, in 1 year we're going to kill all the Jews. Everybody. And the Jews were so scared. He said, here we go again. Another Rasha is going to wipe us out. Now we're finished. Forget about no Beis HaMikdash. Now we're really going to be finished. But Hashem came and He saved the Jewish people. And Mordechai and Esther got everybody to daven and to stop sinning and to stop doing the wrong thing, and they were nice to everybody. And the Jews didn't have to worry. Hashem saved them. And we know Esther was married to which king? Do you remember his name? Achash. That's right, Achashverosh. Married to Achashverosh. And they had a little boy. His name was Daryavish. And Daryavish, who was Jewish, because his mother was Jewish, right? Esther was Jewish. So Daryavish felt so bad for the Jews. It was his people, his brothers and sisters, and he said, everybody can go back to Yerushalayim and build another Beis HaMikdash. And a lot of people were so happy when they went back to Yerushalayim and they built the second Beis HaMikdash. And the Jews were so happy after 70 years of being in that far, far, far away place, Bavel. They were able to come back to Yerushalayim, and with Ezra and Nehemiah, who were their leaders, they were able to build the Beis HaMikdash. And after a couple of years, a great tzaddik took over. His name was Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik wasn't only the leader of the Jewish people, he was also a very special man. He was a Kohen Gadol. Gadol means big, but it doesn't only mean big, it also means great. He was the greatest Kohen. He was the head of all the Kohanim. He was the number one Kohen in the whole world, in all the Beis HaMikdash. He was it. And everybody loved Shimon HaTzadik. Everybody thought Shimon HaTzadik was the greatest person in the whole world, and they were right. Shimon HaTzadik was exactly like we called him. He was a tzaddik. And everybody loved Shimon HaTzadik. And Shimon HaTzadik ran the Beis HaMikdash so well. The Jews always gave korbanos, and they were davening to Hashem. And on the Chagim, on the holidays, on Pesach, on Sukkot, on Shavuot, they would all come to the Beis HaMikdash and give korbanos, and they would sit and eat their korbanos with their families, and they would daven, and they would learn Torah, and it was such a happy time in Yerushalayim. It was so exciting. But now, let's turn around and look at the other side of the world. Not at Eretz Yisrael, but another place called Greece. And in Greece there was a man named Alexander. And Alexander woke up one day and he said, my name isn't just Alexander. It's Alexander the Great. I am the greatest, he said. No one is greater than me. No one at all out there is greater than me, and I'm going to show it. And Alexander got an army together. And the army went from place to place, from Greece to Italy, all around Europe. Then they went to Africa. And every place he went, Alexander the Great would come in and say, I am the greatest. No one is greater than me. I'm Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great would tell everybody, watch, I'm going to destroy everything. And if there is someone that's greater than me, let them try to stop me. They're not going to be able to. And he was right. Everywhere he went, Alexander the Great would first call out to the heads of the city or the heads of the country, and he would say, whoever is the number one person here, come on out. And he would say, who's greater, me or you? And if they said, you're greater, he would say, that's right, and he would chop off their heads. If they would say, I'm greater, he would say, you're wrong, and chop off their heads. Either way, he would chop off their heads. And a lot of the cities he would burn right to the ground. There was one city he liked, though. He liked it so much, he changed its name. And he named the city after himself. He called it Alexandria. Alexandria is in Egypt. And it's still there today, and it's still called by the same name after him. And as Shimon the Tzaddik went from country to country, he was on his way to Eretz Yisrael. And the people in Eretz Yisrael, who had only just built the Beis HaMikdash, got so scared. They said, what's going to happen? He's going to come to Yerushalayim, and he's going to kill Shimon HaTzadik because he's our number one leader. And then he's going to come and he's going to burn down the Beis HaMikdash. And it's going to be such a scary time. And we're going to lose another Beis HaMikdash. Oh, Hashem, why? Please, no. And they were so scared as they heard that he was getting closer and closer. And they went to Shimon HaTzadik, their leader, and they said, Rabbi Shimon HaTzadik, what are we going to do? How are we going to be able to save ourselves? They're going to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, Alexander the Great and his army. Shimon HaTzadik was very worried. Very, very worried. So worried. What's going to happen with his people? What's going to happen with his Beis HaMikdash? Oh no! As they heard that Alexander the Great was coming up the Midbar, coming up the desert on the way to Yerushalayim, Shimon HaTzadik did something that no one had ever seen him do. The Kohen Gadol had special clothes that he wore. Special clothes, and some of these clothes he only wore one day of the year on Yom Kippur. And you weren't allowed, even if you were the Kohen Gadol, you weren't allowed to wear these clothes outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Ever, Hashem said, never are you ever allowed to wear these clothes outside of the Beis HaMikdash. They always have to stay in the Beis HaMikdash, and you can only wear them on special days, on Yom Kippur. And Shimon HaTzadik, when he heard that Alexander the Great was getting closer, put on what's called the Big Day Kahuna, these special clothes. And he went out and he started walking out of the Beis HaMikdash. And all the Kohanim came over to him and they said, Shimon HaTzadik, Rabbi Shimon, what are you doing? You're not allowed to leave with those clothes. And he said to them, don't worry. Follow me. And he walked right out of the Beis HaMikdash. And they couldn't believe it. And he's walking out of the Beis HaMikdash, and he starts to leave Yerushalayim in these clothes, and they couldn't believe, Shimon HaTzadik, what are you doing? Why? And he walks and he's walking towards Alexander the Great, towards the army that's coming probably to kill him, and to kill all the Jewish people, and to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. And to Shimon, you should be running away. Why are you going closer to him? Shimon HaTzadik was quiet. He didn't explain. He just kept on walking. The people are behind Shimon HaTzadik, and they're very scared. They don't know what's going to happen to him. They're so nervous. But he walks. He continues to walk. And they start seeing Alexander the Great's army from far away. And Alexander the Great's army sees the Jews coming. And they say, no way, they're not coming out to fight. They can't beat us. They're not a strong army. And as the two sides get closer, Alexander the Great steps up. And everybody knows what's going to happen now. He's going to ask Shimon HaTzadik, who's greater, me or you? And everyone knows, no matter what he answers, they're going to cut off Shimon HaTzadik's head. And some of the Jews start crying. Other Jews are so scared, they can't look. They cover their eyes. Cover your eyes. Okay, open them. And they look. And Alexander the Great is bowing down, just like this, to Shimon HaTzadik. And they can't believe it. Alexander the Great doesn't bow down to anyone. He's the greatest. How come he's bowing down to Shimon HaTzadik? And they say, our ruler, Alexander the Great, get up. It's an embarrassment. How could you bow down to him? And he says, you don't understand. You think I'm the greatest just because I'm me? How do you think I know before I go into a city I'm going to win the war? Maybe they're going to beat us. Maybe really they're greater than us. Just because I say I'm great doesn't mean I'm great. Why am I so, what the word is called, confident? Why do I think I'm the greatest? He said, you should know every night I go to sleep before we go to war. And I'm very scared. Maybe the next day my head's going to get cut off. But I have a dream. And a man used to come to me every single night in a dream. And he used to say, Alexander, you're going to win tomorrow. You don't have to worry at all. And the man wore very special clothing. But I never saw this man before. I didn't know who he was. That man in my dream is this man, the head of the Jewish people. His name is Shimon HaTzadik. And he turned to Shimon HaTzadik and he said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be Alexander the Great. Tell me, what can I do for you? And everybody thought maybe you'd ask for a nice house, some good food, maybe to save him and his family. But Shimon HaTzadik goes for it all and he says, Alexander the Great, please, we have our very special Beis HaMikdash and our very special city, Yerushalayim. Please don't touch them. Leave the Beis HaMikdash. Alexander the Great said, okay. And the Beis HaMikdash wasn't touched. And because of that, because he didn't touch the Beis HaMikdash, Jews were so thankful. They started naming their kids, their little children, their babies, boys and girls. The boys they would name Al or Alex or Alexander, and the girls would be Alexandria or Alexa or Allie, all because of Shimon HaTzadik and Alexander the Great not destroying Yerushalayim. I hope you like the story. We hope to have some more later on. Have a great day.